welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be restoring this vintage tri-square. Now it's not in too bad condition, it's got a bit of surface rust and the brass is a bit tarnished, but apart from that we haven't got too much work to do on it. But it is all square. I've checked with my accurate engineer's square and all of the faces on this are square, so it's all good to go. So all I need to do is sand it, but do it in a way that I don't throw it out of alignment, and then we just need to give it a clean, maybe a bit of a buff on some of the brass, and hopefully we'll turn out with something that's much better than it looks now and something really usable. Let's get going.
The first step of the project was to work on the handle of the tri-square, so I started with some 80 grit just to remove any of the dirt and the old sort of layers of tarnish and things like that on the wood, and then I moved up to about 120 grit just to sort of smooth out the scratches and make it look nicer.
So we've got most of the work done on the handle itself, nice and clean. So the brass has come up a treat, looks really nice and shiny, just how I expected it to come out, to be honest. So now we're going to work on this bit of brass here, and then we're going to move on to the actual steel part of the tri-square. So I think, yeah, for the brass we'll probably use something like a 400 grit, make sure it's flat on the table, so I'll probably glue it down, then I can work on sanding that part, then move on to these two faces.
I then started to work on sanding the metal sections of the tri-square. For the majority of this, I used a block of wood and then another piece of sandpaper wrapped around a block of wood to make it all nice and flat and sand off all the rust and dirt. This worked really well as it meant I wasn't going to throw anything out of alignment.
So we've now cleaned up the metal, the brass and the wood. Now the only issue is we've still got these scratches here. Don't know whether you can see them, there you go. Now I could remove these, but I don't think I'm going to bother. I'll see what it's like on the polisher, but I think it might be quite difficult to get them out. I might try though, but I don't know. And it is still perfectly square, which is good after all that work. And the wood looks really nice, and I've still managed to keep the Marples logo there as well, which is really good. So I think we'll move on to the polisher. I've set it up on the lathe, you might just be able to see there. So we'll move on to that. Hopefully we can get a nice polish onto it, and then we can see what else needs doing to it. So I've set the polishing system up on the lathe, and this is the polishing compound we're going to be using. Axminster's pink polishing compound. So I'm going to whack a bit of that onto the polishing wheel, and then hopefully we can get a decent polish on this.
I then applied some compound onto the buffing wheel and proceeded to polish all of the metal faces of the tri-square. I then removed the tailstock just to give myself a bit better access to the other faces of the tri-square, as well as the brass, which I also wanted to make sure was nice and polished. Some of the wood ended up getting some of the polishing compound on it, so I ended up just sanding that back off and worked my way up through the grits.
So with the tri-square off the buffing wheel, we're now going to try and apply some wax. Now I've opted for the bronze Hampshire sheen wax, which in this case might not work because this is intended to be used on the lathe because you use the friction to then apply the polish, but I think it will probably work because at the end of the day I can just buff it by hand and I'm not looking for an ultra glossy finish on the wood. So we're going to give this a go. I think it will make a really nice sort of sheen. It won't be hugely shiny, but I think it will have a nice subtle shine to it and should be quite nice.
The Hampshire sheen polish worked really well, and I was surprised how well it worked off the lathe for this. And I think it was a really good, suitable choice as it protected the metal and also made a really nice shine on the wood.
Thank you very much for watching this video. I really enjoyed restoring this tri-square. I think it's turned out quite nice. It's fairly sympathetic restoration. I haven't gone overboard with it in my opinion. And I think it's come out really, really nice. We've got some really nice shine on the brass here. Don't know how well you can see that. You can see it pretty well actually there. I think it's come out really, really nice. Looks really nice and it's going to work really well as well. I have checked it is still square, which is the most important thing. And now I've got a really nice sort of older style tri-square that I can start to use. And of course I'm going to mount it up somewhere on the tool wall. So I'll probably post a photo on my Instagram story of where I ended up putting it. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video and I'll see you in the next one.